Here in Barcelona, it is almost time for race 2 of the weekend in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Europe. The cars have made their way around to the grid. A huge entry this weekend, 44 of them. 1 or 2 suffered a little bit of damage in yesterday's race, which was affected by safety cars, one of which, late race, ended up being elongated after there was an accident behind the safety car. And so we didn't get many racing laps in at the end, but it was a win on amended times for Max Wearing and Loris Spinelli. And with that, they took over not only an increased championship lead, but won the championship as well. So the championship in Pro has gone their way, and they therefore have sewn that up with 3 races to go, because we've got this race and also still 2 more at the finals weekend in Portimao in early November, where they have the final regional races on the Friday and then a race each day as part of the final, which is points scored across the 2 races. The grid is being formed. It's not based on yesterday's race results. It is based on the time set in a standalone qualifying session, and the car on pole position is the target racing entry of Milan Tikans and Marzio Moretti. But Giorgio Sana of Lamborghini Motorsport is on the grid, and so too is Gemma Scott.
Giorgio, it feels absolutely crazy that we're already coming to the end of another season. It's flown by once again.
Yes, it's right. But we are very excited because now the next step, the next round will be the Super Trofeo World Final in Portimao. We are waiting more than 70 cars, wow, considering also the American teams that are coming for the World Final. So we are very, very happy, very excited. We can already celebrate the Super Trofeo European champions in the Pro class with Max Wearing and Loris Spinelli. So congratulations to them and to the team Bonaldi. And looking forward for Portimao. It will be a big event as usual, a sort of Lamborghini week of speed, let me say. So 7 days, full gas.
And of all the drivers coming together, who do you keep your eye on?
I think will be a nice race today also, as usual in all the categories. We have 44 cars on the grid, so it's a record number for this season. And for Portimao especially, we have also young drivers and few gentlemen drivers new on the grid this year in America. That was, by the way, also booming because even in America we arrive at 37 cars on the grid. That is a considerable number. So let's see, we are ready to go and to close the season in the best way possible.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for this season, and all the best for the World Final.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
Thanks, Georgie.
And that final taking the teams, as you've been hearing, to Portimao, and it'll be, as ever, a really dramatic weekend. So the grid forming, there is one non-starter for this race, which is Oliver Freimuth's car. That's suffered some damage, which isn't going to be fixed in time for him to start the race, but the race itself is going to be over 50 minutes. There will be, of course, a rolling start, and then mandatory pit stops between 20 and 30 minutes, for which it is 86 seconds plus 3 seconds for the solo drivers. That's Stefan Guerin, who is now second in the AM Championship. Yesterday, the AM class was won by Andrei Lewandowski, but Stefan Guerin is good to go and will be a thorn in his side, I would have thought, over the course of this race. Milan Tikans' car starts on pole position. Marzio Moretti will start the race, but Milan Tikans is with Gemma Scott.
Milan, obviously yesterday's race was action-packed. There was a lot going on and it was a tough one. Today, the objective from the front row?
Yeah, of course, yesterday we started second and we got a bad start, and that compromised our race a little bit. But yeah, today from pole, and it's looking good, and just hope that Marzio can get a good start and I can finish it off in P1. And yeah, that should be the best result possible.
It's a lot cooler this morning than it was when you raced yesterday afternoon. Does that make it easier for you on the tyres?
Yeah, the balance of the car is way different than in the afternoon, because in the afternoon it's way hotter, and now it's a lot cooler. So yeah, let's see who got it right and who got it wrong, and then we will see when we're driving.
Thank you. Have a great race.
Thank you.
5-minute board just shown, so the engines will be firing up fairly shortly. The grid, which, as you've been hearing, is 44 cars, or now 43 cars strong, stretching all the way up the pit straight. Antonios Vossos then starting for this race from the 15th slot on the 2x2 grid for the rolling start, and he is another regular in Super Trofeo as number 9, Philippe Châtelet, joining this weekend, Milan Petelet. That car yesterday copped a penalty, so ended up dropping down the order in the final results. But Petelet and Châtelet should be quick. 25th yesterday. They can certainly do better than that. We had one car that retired early yesterday, which was Adrian Lewandowski after damage and a puncture on the first lap of the race. But fingers crossed he'll have better fortunes today. Magnus Gustafsson there, number 44, in the car that he shares with Damien Chusek. And it is going to be Gustafsson who will go first. Daniel Kalvit's new to the championship this weekend, which is good to see. And he's on the grid with Gemma as well.
Danny, obviously down here on the third row of the grid, you're not starting the car, clearly, but it's always a tough one from this championship with the close competition. Yesterday, watching everybody come into turn one looked quite tight.
Yeah, it was, but it was fair, what I see, as well, in the front rows at least. And we are new to this championship here, so this is our first experience now. And yeah, we are happy to be here, and it makes a lot of fun. And now with the third row, we are starting in a good position. And yesterday we finished on P3 in the end, so we hope that we can do that again today. Yeah.
Another visit to the podium, hopefully.
I hope so, yeah. It's our goal to go on podium again, and then, yeah, but mainly the goal is just to finish the race and save the car, no damages, and then we will see, yeah.
Thank you very much, Danny.
Thank you.
And Daniel Kalvitz, German GT champion, very, very quick driver. He's partnered with Lennart Marionech, Gabriel Rindoni, the Luxembourg driver for Lippert Motorsports, lining up 12th on the grid. And 11th, just over his shoulder as it were, there is Massimo Ciglia, Lewis Williamson's Oregon team car that fell away in the pits yesterday. And because they didn't get many racing laps in at the end, having been running very well up, second in Pro-Am early on in the race, they ended the race only in 10th and off the podium. So it was a frustration all round. Number 80 is the car you were just hearing about from Daniel Kalvitz, with Lennart Marionech to go first. Another driver from ADAC GT days. And there, the front row of the grid with 54, Marzio Moretti on pole position. Number 71 alongside is the Brutal Fish Racing Team car of Martin Rieber and Eduardo Liberati, who will start. Brendan Leach goes first from 4th on the grid in the Lippert car of Gerhard Watzinger. They were 3rd in Pro-Am yesterday. Brendan Leach on double duty in terms of this and also Fanatec GT this weekend. Number 90 just got a glimpse of his Holger Harmsen's car that's been repaired after being given a big whack in the back in the safety car period yesterday that elongated the second safety car period of the race. And the man that won on the road yesterday, Amaury Bonduel there, but he was massively under on his pit stop time, so he ended up being given a drive-through penalty which was converted into 30 seconds for not doing the pit stop under the regulation time. And so 17th was Amaury Bonduel yesterday. He's had an outright win this season, but he was a long, long way down on the amended times, of course, because there weren't many racing laps to be put in at the very end of the race. Now, that 1 minute board is going to be shown in a moment, and then the engines will fire up. The engineers will leave the grid. We should be good to go. The Lamborghini Urus will set off as the leading car, and engines do now fire. That's the car on pole then, Marzio Moretti to start for Target Racing, one of the stalwart teams in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Marzio Moretti, who's come from karting through Italian F4. He's raced in the UAE Formula 4 Championship. He's been a sports car racer in the Le Mans Cup in LMP3 chassis. And last year, he was 4th in the Italian Carrera Cup. So he's somebody that's new to the cars this year, but an experienced driver nonetheless. So in a moment or two, the field will be released. The engineers making their way off the grid. And then 50 minutes with the mandatory pit stops coming between 20 and 30 minutes will be good to go. 15-second board shown. The leading car, which will act as the pace car here, sets off. And then pole position on the inside of the grid claimed by Marzio Moretti. The black car with the yellow gills to it, if you like, and the yellow mirrors. So the Target Racing entry. The champions, after their efforts of yesterday, line up 6th in the champions. Max Wearing and Loris Spinelli. 7 wins they've now had, and another one is certainly possible, but it's not going to be quite so easy starting there from 6th on the grid. So the cars then released onto this final formation lap, chance to get some warmth into the Pirelli rubber, and a reminder of how that grid is going to line up with Mario Moretti and Edoardo Liberati on the front row. Amaury Bonduelle starting on the second row with Brendan Leach alongside him the third row. Lennart Marionette on the inside. Max Wearing will be alongside him, and then Dan Wells and Jean-Luc Daria are on the fourth row. Row 5 is Filippo Berto. He was in the gravel yesterday, caused a safety car period, and Rodrigo Testa de Sousa alongside him. Then it's Massimo Ciglia and Gabriel Rindoni alongside. Magnus Gustafsson is on the 7th row, as also is Philippe Châtelet. And then on the 8th row of the grid, Antonios Vossos, the Greek driver, and French GT regular Stéphane Guérin. Next up comes number 63, Cédric Lima, and Bronek Formanet, the Pro-Am winner yesterday with Karol Bash's help, is alongside them. There is Donovan Privitello and Lamborghini young driver David Serban, the Romanian. Emmanuel Colombini is on the 11th row. He was tagged into a spin on the last lap yesterday. Gregor Marchulski lines up alongside him ahead of Cyril Lima, and then Andrei Lewandowski, the AM winner yesterday. Adrian Lewandowski next on the grid alongside Kerong Lee. On the 14th row, there is Aureus Bukevicius and Pierre Feligioni ahead of Holger Harmsen, and the gap where Oliver Freimuth should have been. There's Louis Wagner and Mark Rosstown together on the 16th row. The 17th row, Diego Locanto and Gerard van der Horst, who is the regular man to beat in the Lamborghini Cup. The 18th row, Paolo Biglieri and the returning Shota Alcazaba alongside him ahead of Hans Fabry and Daniel Waszinski. On the 20th row, Libor Dvoracek lines up alongside the Lamborghini Cup winner of yesterday, Francois Grimm. Sebastian Freimuth is a long, long way back on row 21 with Kumar Prabhakaran for company, and then Sandro Moore and Jose Alfredo Hernandez Ortega round out the grid. It's a huge grid. The cars then bunching up into order as they come through turn 12. The leading car, the pace car as it is, will dive for the pit lane, and if the race director is happy, then he'll give the command to get things underway, and 50 minutes then, race 2 of the weekend, will be go. Cars to watch, well, inevitably number 61 to see what Max Wearing can do, but of course when you put Loris Spinelli into that, the new pro champions, it's going to fly. Max Wearing is not slow, but Loris Spinelli is perhaps the fastest driver in Super Trofeo terms out of anybody. So into the chicane, out of the chicane they come. You can go side by side through there, as has just been evinced, but it's a hard place to overtake. And now as the pace car peels to the pit lane, the drivers come through turn 16, looking towards the lights. On pole position there, Marzio Moretti. Alongside him is Edoardo Liberati, who's more experienced in Super Trofeo terms than the all-gold car of Amaury Bonduelle on the second row of the grid. As the lights change, they accelerate away. Brendan Leach didn't make a great start from 4th on the grid, but as they head down now towards turn 1, it is going to be Marzio Moretti on the inside line trying to defend the advantage, and he has done so with Bonduelle up on the inside line there to try to get alongside and then past Liberati, which he does. So Amaury Bonduelle goes second. Brendan Leach hung out to dry on the outside line. Do they all get through turn 1? They do so far. And then towards turn 3 now, this sweeping right-hander that climbs uphill as well. It's much, much steeper than the camera would have you believe as the field goes through. Andrei Lewandowski, number 60, goes through leading the AM contest as being forced out wide. Edoardo Liberati has to cede the place to Amaury Bonduelle in the gold car on the inside line there. Both run wide. Brendan Leach comes back at them and a bit of contact between the two for second place. Liberati getting into the back of Bonduelle. He's on the outside line down towards turn 5. And Brendan Leach in the red car there from the Leipzig Motorsport stable, trying to get up on the inside line to no avail as they come down towards turn 6, then 7 and 8. This is 7, right at 8, climb the hill. Another steep climb here on the power. Riding with Edoardo Liberati down in 3rd place, and a spin already off the road has gone number 4. That is Mark Rosstown. He's on the runoff area, he's out of harm's way, but hopefully that car can get going so we don't need to neutralise the race as the field then comes out of turn 9 through that right-hander over the brow. This is the mid to rear end of the field, whereas the leaders are coming up towards turn 12, and a challenge by Max Wearing there to try to get up on the inside line. Number 61, Max Wearing, hustles on, couldn't find a way through, however. So they're going through is Daniel Kalvitz's car. They're not Marionette at the wheel of it. There, 61 is the champion. We've got spinners all over the place. One at the bottom of the hill, one at the top, look. So rejoining, somewhat delayed, looked like being David Serban, but there's another car in the middle of the road up at the top of that hill, up at turn 12. So yellow flags in more than one place at the moment. There is number 5. That's the other car that's facing the wrong way. Gregor Marchulski's GT3 Poland entry, and the safety car is being deployed. So safety car on track, doesn't find the leader. but it can now back right off, let everybody go through and scoop up the leading car next time around. So safety car is deployed, and there is Gregor Moczulski trying to rejoin, but he's got damage, look, with a shredded tyre, I think, on the left rear corner. So there's clearly been some contact that's tagged him into that spin. So he's got going. Now, of course, the big frustration here is also depending on Mark Rostan, whether he got going. No, he didn't. Is that as the safety car is looking for the leader, the road is almost clear now, actually. If Gregor Moczulski can limp into the pit lane, you probably wouldn't really need the safety car at all, but it's Murphy's Law. You call for the safety car, and then the stranded machine fires up and gets going again. So there's the safety car. It parks. It is waiting for the race leader. It's going to be quite a wait, in fairness, but it will wait. And the leading car of Marzio Moretti is, at the moment, heading up to turn 10. This is the view from on board Edoardo Liberati's third-placed car. See, it feels narrow coming into turn 10. You've got those walls on either side. Then it opens up as you actually get to the corner itself. So I think the road is going to be pretty much clear shortly. Looks as though Mark Rostan's on the move again. To the pit lane limps Gregor Moczulski. So effectively, all we need really is for the safety car to find the leader, bring them round, and then we can go again. Mark Rostan has gone through, so the road is clear of errant cars. Into turn 16, then comes the leading line. Just creeping past the timing tower there on the left of the screen was Gregor Moczulski, bringing the damaged, punctured car to the pits. So he might be able to rejoin the race. But once you've got a new tyre on that car, as long as there's no suspension damage for that. So he's in the pits. That means that all we need now is for these cars to catch the safety car, and then we should be good to go, I think, as long as there's no stragglers. Replay at the start. Good getaway by Amaury Bonduel. Made that run down on the inside line to turn 1 to try to claim second place. And Edoardo Liberati not being quite so quick off the blocks, and of course being on the outside line may have gone against him as well, but Bonduel through on the inside and able to brake very, very late and then claim the inside line and second place going through the first corner. Liberati eventually being able to get into the pack, defend those behind. Bounced over the curb, but as the inside line for turn 3 there was claimed by Bonduel, the only place he could go was to the outside, and that inevitably was going to slightly delay him. And Mark Rostan having his dramas on the first lap. He was backwards coming into shot, possibly after a bit of contact, and this is what happened as well. It was contact that turned around David Serban, and the biter bit there, whichever the car was that made the contact, turned him around, and there with his tyre deflated, around goes Gregor Moczulski, so he got involved in an earlier incident, and the tyre let go as he went to the top of the hill, and around he went. So the safety car has scooped up everybody. Just. Oh dear, 1 or 2 braking and others having to go wide in avoidance. That's always the knock-on effect, isn't it? People start to slow and slow more, and those that are arriving a bit quicker stand on the brakes, and drama can ensue. The lights are still on the safety car, so I think Alain Ardon, as the race director, is going to give them one more lap just to make sure that everybody has caught the cue. So we will go racing at the end of not this, but seemingly the next lap. Safety car then down to the right-hander of turn 16. So the field comes over the timing line, but you're looking at the exit of the chicane here, where the rest of the cars are all pouring through. Can't overtake while the safety car is out on track, of course, so it's a case of holding station. And there are a few that have inevitably dropped some time in the opening laps of the race that are trying to play catch-up, and those drivers now charge their way up towards the line. One of which, by the look of it, is the other car that spun, having tagged around David Serban, and that
safety
is
car
the
in this lap.
Audrius Butkevicius entry from the RD Sainz racing team, the Lithuanian driver. We've heard the race director say that the safety car is going to be in this lap, so good news, we'll go back to racing this time. Gregor Moczulski is back on track, I think I'm right in saying. He's made a pit stop, but a new tyre put onto the car and out he has gone. So he's lost a lap, but in the race still. Has to make the mandatory pit stop within the window, so he'll lose more time when he serves that. But the marshals shortly will be able to wave green, not yellow flags to get the race back underway. Mochulski and Rostam, the two delayed drivers, absolutely pounding around trying to catch the queue of cars that, as you can see, is coming up now through turn 9. Out of that right-hander over the brow. This is turn 10 at the bottom of the straight. Big grandstand that sits on the outside of that section of the circuit, which is always popular with the fans because you can see quite a big chunk of the next section of the circuit. And it's also a place, as you've just seen, where drama can happen coming into the braking zone for turn 10. So this has taken us through really the first 6 or 7 minutes of the race, really, as the road is now cleared, and it remains Marzio Moretti, who had a win at Spa, to lead the field down through turn 16 in a moment, ready to accelerate away. But first of all, he's got to get the chicane sorted. The pace car, safety car as it is, will peel to the pit road. And you can see Amaury Bonduelle absolutely glued to the back there of Marzio Moretti as they come into turn 16 now. This is where the leader accelerates away, and the leading quartet pretty much has won. Moretti from Bonduelle, from in third place Liberati, from fourth place Brendan Leach. They all go through together. Fifth, it is Lennart Marionech. In sixth place now, Dan Wells got himself just before the safety car came out, ahead of Max Wearing. So Wearing dropping back 1 spot. But just wait to see Loris Spinelli in that car, because you know it's going to be an absolute weapon. We are on to lap number 5 then. 41 minutes of the race remain as the cars accelerate up through turn 1. Look at the long line of them all still pouring over the timing line. But up front now, Marzio Moretti tries to build that lead before he gives the car over to Milan Tikans. Amaury Bonduelle running in second spot, but he's under attack again from Edoardo Liberati, as they were fighting before the safety car period. So they're at it again, and Liberati goes to the inside line down to turn 5, and he goes through. Bonduelle gave him the room there, saw him coming, and a good pass that by Edoardo Liberati. He will share this car with the less experienced Martin Rieber, who's raced in TCR Europe, now coming to Super Trofeo. I think this is his first weekend in the cars, so Martin Rieber won't have the pace of Liberati because he's still learning about a totally new racing machine. So Liberati doing the hard yards, and Bonduelle straight away dropping back into the clutches of Brendan Leach now. So Brendan doing these races to gain more experience of European racing and circuits, and there you can see him on the inside line in the red car, number 70, but Amaury Bonduelle just about fends him off through turn 10, and that's going to put Brendan Leach on the outside line as they make that run up the hill, and he can't go through there, however. Making their way down again into the right-hander of
10-second time penalty to car 69, causing a collision.
And so that is the car that tagged around David Serban. Audrius Butkevicius will be given a 10-second penalty for that, and so come the end of the race it will fall down the order. The leaders go through, and Moretti to Liberati now is 0.6 of a second. There's a slow car on the pit straight because crawling past the pits has just gone Jean-Luc Daria and Stefan Tribaude in his car that's had an awful lot of bad luck this year. Jean-Luc Daria at the wheel of it. There's the white car you can see in the background up towards the pit wall. So Jean-Luc Daria in strife, that car 4th yesterday. So it's a significant car with a problem as the race leaders come out of turn 1. And Daria realises that it isn't going to kick-start itself. He pulls to one side. He's out of the race. Maybe this is a chance to do a sort of Control-Alt-Delete and try and restart it, but it's a big problem, that, because he's tumbling down the order. Rest of the field accelerating out of turn 5 here. In the classes right now, Marzio Moretti, the overall race leader, is of course clear in Pro. In Pro-Am, it's Edoardo Liberati and Martin Rieber. In the Ams, it is Antonios Vossos from Gabriel Rindoni from Cedric Lima. And then in Lamborghini Cup at the moment, you've got to go quite a long way down the order before you find the Privitellios. Donovan Privitello is at the wheel, son, and he leads the Lamborghini Cup right now. So the leaders on lap 6 make the climb up the hill, other side of which, down towards the chicane out of turn 13 now comes Marzio Moretti, looking good up front, isn't he, as he comes now through the left and the right of the chicane, back onto the power. Out of turn 16, he makes the acceleration up towards the timing line, and another one off the road is Marc Rostat again. So he had a spin on the first lap of the race, he's rejoined, and he's plonked it well and truly in the gravel, and that ain't coming out of there. So Marc Rostat is off the road, and yellow flags are in the middle sector, but we are going to end up with, I would have thought, yet another safety car period here, because that is well and truly beached, and if he can get there, so can others. yellow flag to wave down into turn 1. And let's wait and see what the race director decides to do about Mark Rostand's car, but it's certainly not going to drive out of there. Race leaders on lap 7. The lead gap was 7/10 of a second. Marzio Moretti having done the fastest lap of the race, and there it's an unusual place to end up, coming out of turn 4 into turn 5. So it spun across the road, it's ended up in the gravel, and Mark Rostand out of the race. The rest of the field come through, and does this tell us what he did? Yes, he ran wide, bounced onto the curb, and around he went, hits the barrier, and the gravel stops him, but that was all self-induced, wasn't it? Mark Rostand trying to play catch-up, just running wide, coming out of that corner, hooks it onto the curb, and then loses traction, and it spits him across the road. Safety car is on standby, not surprisingly, as the leaders then come up towards the end of lap number 7, and the Lamborghini Huracan safety car then might well be joining the road once more. Battle on turn 10, safety car is called for, safety car is deployed. So at the end of the lap, we're going to go behind the safety car again. So big frustration for those drivers that, like Edoardo Liberati here, are trying to build a gap for their co-driver to preserve. One driver that it's actually helping is Sandro Mur, number 32, because he was on the back row of the grid as you look at Mark Rostand trudging away. Sandro Mur, not as quick as Martin Kodrich, but these safety car periods are keeping him in the mix, really. They're bringing him back towards the leaders, and meaning that Kodrich has got less time to make up in the second stint. Jean-Luc Daria's car also might need retrieving here, because you've got 2 cars, of course, one stranded by the side of the circuit, one in the gravel. Jean-Luc Daria's car can be cleared out of the way here as well, but they've had such a torrid season at VS Racing. It's a big disappointment yet again for Jean-Luc Daria and for Stéphane Tribodini. Stéphane did, at least, as I say, get a good result out of the car yesterday, but he's been a multiple GT4 champion. Jean-Luc Daria came from GT4 into Super Trofeo this year, and it has not been the season at all that he was hoping for. So we're behind the safety car again, and with 5.5 minutes before the pit window opens, supposedly this might get delayed, the pit window, until the circuit is clear. We'll find out. But there is that provision within the regulations. The cars all turn through. So Mark Rostand's day is done, so Jean-Luc Daria's race. And as the field turns through, another car this doesn't help, of course, is number 69, the car of the Lithuanian driver Audrius Budkevicius and his co-driver Arturs Batrax, because with the field bunched up, your 10 seconds will cover more cars, so you lose more places. Granted, we will have more racing laps in which the gap could stretch out again, but right now, all bunched up around him. So the cars here turn into turn 10 at the bottom of that long, fast straight. Then another climb up the hill, and the marshals and the track workers on their toes now as they try to get the car of Mark Rostand out of the gravel. In terms of the classes, still, of course, Marzio Moretti is the man leading Pro-Am, led by Edoardo Liberati. Antonios Vossos has kept his lead in the AM class. And 23rd, Donovan Privitello is still the man in charge of Lamborghini Cup right now. But it's been a really frustrating stint for the drivers with these 2 safety car periods. And Mark Rostand is going to have a little bit of explaining to do, I suspect, when he gets back to Claude-Yves Gosselin, his co-driver, as to exactly why Claude-Yves doesn't get a drive, and the car's beached early in the gravel after a second spin of the race. So the cars come through. This is the view coming into turn 1 at the end of that very long pit straight, downhill pit straight. And then where there's a down, there's an up. This is the climb through turn 3. So you get into turn 1 at the bottom, and then the climb begins. So right at 1, left at 2, sweeping right at turn 3, which goes on, and finally you get a bit of respite at the top of that climb. There's the straight, and then turn 4 loops you back round, drop downhill in towards turn 5, which is the approach to the corner at which Mark Rostand went off the road. So in theory, we are 3 minutes just under away from the pit window opening. But there is Rostow's car, damage at the back of it. The snatch vehicle pulls it out of the gravel. And Mark Rostow might be able to drive it back to the pits, but the car's race is pretty much done. Safety car in this lap, we are told. So Mark Rostow, his car out of harm's way, and so the safety car will be in this time. There's confirmation on the screens as the race leaders are at turn 10. So this means that the window for the pit stops should not have to be affected. It means that there won't be much racing time before the pit window does open, about a lap, but we can get the race back underway as the safety car sprints up towards turn 12. Now Marzio Moretti starts to slow the pace behind, bunching everybody up, getting ready to release the car to accelerate away towards the timing line to get the race back underway. Into turn 16 he will come. Turns through the right-hander of turn 13. This is the chicane. You're riding on board with Edoardo Liberati, don't forget, who is in second spot, looking for a way to get onto terms with the race leader when the race goes green, which it does now. So the green flag is there on the start line, and the leaders come out of turn 16 with Amaury Bonduel looking to come back at Liberati as well as the leaders now go through. They accelerate down towards turn 1, and Bonduel weaving around, trying to get the warmth back in the tyres, also trying to unsettle Liberati as they dive into turn 1. So Marzio Moretti it is who still leads the way as the pack turns through that first right-hander. Now make the climb up the hill. There, look, number 70, Brendan Leach, keeping the traffic at bay for the moment. Behind Leach is Lennart Marionech, and then Dan Wells, who is another of the very, very quick drivers out of the Pro-Am category. Dan, who's done the bulk of his racing in China. Very good sim racer as well as real-world racer, and has fallen off the European radar a bit, which is a real shame because he made that choice a good few years ago to go to China to earn a career, racing initially to win the Formula Pilota Championship. Dan Wells in that blue and white car you can see in the pack, but with Asian racing been on hold of late, it's been a slightly interrupted few years for him, but he's very, very quick, and he's underlining the point right now as he goes up through turn 8 in 6th place, but he's under attack, look, from Max Wearing, the pro champion of this year. Dan Wells will give that car over to Oscar Lee, who's got faster and faster and faster the more miles that he's done. The almost Dayglow yellow-nosed car of Max Wearing in the draft then, but Dan Wells goes defensive, coming down towards turn 10. The pair of them up behind Lennart Marionech, and the pit window opens now, so cars can dive in at the end of this lap if they are so choosing to do. If you've got your slower driver in first, then you might want to make that pit stop early. Get him out, put your quick driver in. But through they come then now, up towards the end of lap number 10, and we'll find out shortly if anybody is going to dive for the pit lane. That's Max Wearing, the Bonaldi Motorsport driver, as the leader comes through. And yes, we do have people bailing for the pit lane then, so as they come to the end of the lap over the timing line, Marzio Moretti leads by 0.8 of a second from Edoardo Liberati, and into the pits has come Lennart Marionech, and Max Wearing is in. Rodrigo Testa de Souza, he's a soloist, he makes his pit stop, so does Massimo Giglia, so does Bronick Formanek. So yes, it's all the cars needing their quicker driver into the cars now, so the order is going to shuffle while the window is open like this. So right now it is Marzio Moretti who leads the way. 0.8 of a second is the margin that he's got, and Edoardo Liberati not thinking necessarily about an overall win as there through the traffic goes on the inside. Number 42, that is the surviving Freimuth car from AKF Motorsport, son of Oliver, Sebastian Freimuth. And there you can see the pit stops cycling through. Battle on track there. Look, number 39, which is the Shota Abkazava car, trying to find its way through the traffic. Shota Abkazava back into the championship. The Georgian driver looks for a way through, can't do so. 54, Marzio Moretti, the race leader, comes now down through the chicane. makes the run into turn 16, getting away from Liberati. Down towards turn 1 comes the pack of cars that stayed out. Moretti, Liberati, Bonduelle and Brendan Leach. And there, look, Loris Spinelli, forgive me, number 91, the sister car, which is now Pietro Perolini, joins in. Effectively, you lose the best part of a lap because a pit stop is 1 minute and 26 seconds, 1 minute and 29 if you're a solo driver. And Amaury Bonduelle is the highest place of the soloists at the moment. As you look there at Daniel Kalvitz battling with Loris Spinelli. Spinelli trying to make up the ground that has been lost earlier by Max Wearing there. 27 minutes of the race remain as the cars currently work lap number 12. That wide goes Spinelli, rattles it over the curb, proof of how hard he's trying. And up the inside now goes Loris Spinelli. Tries to go through, goes around the outside, and he does it. That is brave, brave stuff, and it works. Kalvitz tries to stand his ground on the inside line. Loris Spinelli gets his nose in front and he gets the job done. Coming into turn 13, that was really, really good stuff. And Loris Spinelli underlining why he's a multiple Lamborghini Super Trofeo champion, be it in America or in Europe, goes round the outside. Great bit of driving, and Loris Spinelli doesn't just take the place. Look, by the end of the lap, he's already 2-3 lengths clear as the cars come over the line. Replay of the move, gets a tighter line coming out of turn 10, up the inside. That puts him on the outside for the next corner, stands his ground, goes round the outside. Kalvitz gives him racing room, thinking I can get back at him on the inside into the next corner, but he can't quite do it. And Spinelli round the outside, fantastic stuff that, and straight away able to gap the opposition as the cars come once again over the timing line. And look, Spinelli now is breaking clear. Through they turn. You're looking there at number 9, which is the Milan Petelet Philippe Chatelet car that's dropped down early on. But Marzio Moretti is doing a very good job up front here, trying to build as big a lead as he can for Milan Tikans. And as the cars sprint towards the completion of lap 13, Edoardo Liberati is the leading Pro-Am driver in that Brutal Fish Racing Team entry. Up the curb he rattles, slightly unsettles the car, but that, I fear, might drop down in the second stint. Martin Rieber still new to Super Trofeo, so won't have the same pace as Liberati does. Through turns Brendan Leach. Makes the run now up through turn 11 as the leader continues to try to build this gap. Marzio Moretti then comes through. Now third, fourth, fifth. What have we got there? Bonduelle ahead of Leach. So still looking for pit stoppers out of that group as the leading line comes through. The one sort of interloper, if you like, having lost a lap there, is Milan Petelet, but he'll get that lap back as the others peel into the pits and serve their mandatory stops. The race leader, Marzio Moretti, now with 13 laps done, is in the pit lane. So the leader is in, and that means that Liberati takes over the race lead from Bonduelle and Leach right now. So there's the leading car. Edoardo Liberati, number 71, takes over the advantage. That is the car that was leading and is now serving the mandatory pit stop. Loris Spinelli, by the way, has done the fastest lap of the race already. Perhaps no surprise, given his regular pace, but Loris Spinelli now the quickest man on track. And the track limit warning also being offered up for the leading car when it goes back out. The board and the flag there for it. So 54, the car which will now become Milan Tikans at the wheel, being given a driving standards flag for the zealotry of Marzio Moretti on track limits. Down towards turn 10 comes the charging Spinelli then. Now, can he win the race outright? Even though that car had dropped back to 7th before the pit window, he's absolutely flying, and the race has 23 more minutes still to go. car that led pre-pit stops. This is the car that might lead at the end of the race. Loris Spinelli howls his way now through the right-hander of turn 16, but it's a long pit straight, so look to the left, and here comes number 54 now, Milan Tikans, down the pit lane, ready to join back in. But there, look, coming over the timing line, that is an amazing effort by Loris Spinelli, because that's going to put the car into the lead of the race then. So it was a good pit stop, and through he goes. There, 54 slots in, still ahead of Amaury Bonduel. So Loris Spinelli and Max Weering looking oh so good. There, in fact, number 80 is the now Daniel Karlovitz driven car. We've got another yellow flag out in the middle sector as Liberati, Bonduel and Leach have all come into the pit lane this time. So it is Loris Spinelli now to take over the lead of the race. Second is Milan Tikans, and third, look, it is Daniel Karlovitz. And that pit stop, and there's the reason for the yellows, debris on the road. Now that might be able to be covered by a full course yellow, but the yellow flags are waving to warn the drivers of it. Quite how it's got there, well, there are tyre marks suggesting that there's a car is off the road as well, so there's a car presumably off that part of the circuit, so we'll try and work out from those that are missing who it could be. Lewis Williamson has also come into the pit lane again in the Oregon car, so he's got a problem. It's a bit crowded in the pits right now, but the bodywork on the road and a damaged car making that part of the racetrack rather narrow right now. So I was going to try and look at the pit stop time for number 61, which is Loris Spinelli. He did a 1:26.6. It was a very, very good stop. And so here you've got the fight going on between now Milan Tikans and Daniel Karlovitz. Well, Daniel is a more experienced driver, may not know Lamborghini's inside out, but he's been racing for a lot longer than Milan Tikans has. So Tikans here having to work hard as he comes up towards the exit of turn 16. That bodywork that we've seen lying in the road is apparently from the car of Diego Locanto, who potentially therefore is going no further in the race as the leaders go by. And so there Martin Rieber rejoining after Eduardo Liberati's efforts, and effectively gives way there to the leaders as they came through. So rather than blending back in and sort of battling for position, was a total gentleman and let the leaders go through. So Loris Spinelli has the advantage over Milan Tikans by already 3 seconds, and he's pulling away. And yes, from 6th on the grid to dropping for 7th, a race win looks like it's going their way right now. 20 minutes of the race still to run here, the final third of the race, as Amaury Bonduel tries to get through the traffic here. That is Gerhard Watzinger ahead of him. Watzinger is another of the Pro-Am drivers. Nose to tail, Watzinger versus Bonduel. So Gerhard Watzinger, who is a quick Am in the Pro-Am category, I think he's going to have to give way sooner or later. Yes, now up the inside goes Bonduel into turn 9, and he goes diving through on the inside line there. So through goes Amaury Bonduel, picks up the place. Good pass that on the inside line. And now with the cars coming down towards turn 10, he will be able to get himself potentially up onto terms with the traffic ahead, gain another position before too much longer. Dan Wells, who had just taken over the lead of the race, is in to give way now to Oscar Lee. Out of turn 16 comes Tikans. Daniel Karlovitz behind him. So Loris Spinelli goes through as the race leader effectively. And there in second and third places are Milan Tikans and Daniel Karlovitz. So in real terms now, Spinelli is ahead by 4.3 seconds. Just driving off into the distance, as we know that Spinelli can do. But Tikans to Karlovitz for second and third place is only half a second, as there Oscar Lee joins just ahead of Gerhard Watzinger. That straight away, that's a battle for position in class, but Watzinger goes through, and also diving into the mix there, Rodrigo Testa de Sousa on the outside line there, looking the orange and white car. He's another one trying to pick up a place, while Oscar Lee gets himself into the groove here. The former kart racer, Rodrigo Testa, in his first year of car racing, on the outside line there. Goes through, and so also behind him does 78, the VSR entry of Emanuele Zonzini. Martin Rieber just ahead of Amaury Bonduel as they come through. This is for 4th place. More yellow flags waved to remind them that that bodywork is in the middle of the road. But it's not being blown out of the way, is it? It's not being moved aside. by the draft of another car passing it. So is that going to be a full course yellow now that the pit window is just about done to move it out of the way?
20 seconds, full course yellow, 20 seconds.
Yes, it is the answer. Full course yellow in 20 seconds, says Alain Adon, who is the race director for Lamborghini Super Trofeo. And just there on the inside line before it comes out, Amaury Bonduel takes the place. So Amaury Bonduel goes through into 5th place now, just before the full course yellow comes.
1 full course yellow now.
So this should not be too long a full course yellow period, we hope. But now that everybody is slowed, the marshals can quickly rush across the road, move the bodywork, and they will be able to go back to green. Martin Rieber turning his way on this 16th lap of the race for him, about to be completed. And Martin Rieber now with cars all around him, because he's got Carol Basch, and then behind that would be Rodrigo Testa. So Carol Basch has come into the mix now for Pro-Am. Martin Rieber leads Pro-Am, but Carol Basch is a Pro-Am driver behind, and Emmanuel Zonzini is 3rd in Pro-Am, and he's in that same battle pack. So I think Pro-Am is going to be the class to watch on the restart. In Am, it's still Antonios Vossos ahead of Cedric Lima, Stefan Guerin 3rd. Andrei Lewandowski has dropped back in the category. And in Lamborghini Cup, it is Luciano Privitello now ahead of Francois Grimm, who won it yesterday, and then Daniel Waszinski in 3rd place. "16 minutes of the race to run. There is Martin Rieber then in the Brutal Fish racing team car, and the former TCR racer, new to Super Trofeo, but benefiting from the experience of the tutelage of Edoardo Liberati. So once that bodywork is removed and the road is clear, the race director will assess whether or not we need to go to a safety car to pick up the pace and get the tyre temperatures up again. There's a drive-through penalty being given for number 5, which is the Gregor Moczulski and Raf Mikrut car. So that is being given a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. The safety car is on standby. So I think we are having to have yet another safety car period, and that will be imminent. Problem is, the longer it takes under full course yellow, the more the tyre pressures and temperatures drop. So the benefit of a safety car is it can go faster and therefore bring the speeds up and the temperatures and pressures for the restart. The road looks clear, doesn't it? But Marshall's there just to go back on post. As I say, the safety car is on standby. That's Oscar Lee, who is 10th overall. The field now turns into the approach to turn 10, but the safety car, as far as I'm aware, has not yet entered the circuit. It might do at the end of this next lap for the cars and be there ready to take one more lap around with them, but it's eating into the remaining time. So Diego Locanto's car, the one that's been damaged, and its bodywork being retrieved. As I say, Lewis Williamson back into the pit lane, and he's a retirement. And so also, and this is an unusual one, Gerard van der Horst, who is normally the man to beat in Lamborghini Cup, and that car also has retired hurt. So Gerard van der Horst sadly out of the race as well. So the full course yellow period continues as Loris Spinelli leads the field down towards turn 1. Not only has Spinelli been able to build up a lead again, but he's also got a back marker between himself and the 2nd place car. So even if Milan Tikans did have designs on battling for the win, it's going to be difficult to get through the traffic before Spinelli gets away. So there is the safety car, which now should, in theory, flick its lights on, move across in front of Loris Spinelli, and then we'll be into safety car procedure. Through turn 1 goes Spinelli with something like 11, nearly 12 seconds in hand right now. And therefore the advantage that he's got, especially if we're now going into safety car conditions, is going to be a pretty mighty one come the end of the race as we ride down towards turn 1. There you've got the cars going through turn 1. So there you've got the cars then up through turn 3, through that sweeping corner. So this full course yellow, we are still in. Although we've seen the safety car on track, the signal has not yet been given to go to safety car conditions. So that suggests that we're not quite ready yet to get the pace increased. We've got coming into the pit lane to serve his drive-through the car of Raf Mikrut that Gregor Moczulski had his dramas with earlier on. So there is the safety car, as you can see. It's got the leader behind it, but only when the race director gives the instruction do we go to safety car conditions. We're not there yet, so it's still going at full course yellow pace. You can also see one of the problems in all of this, which is that there is a back marker almost being lapped by the safety car. So when we go to safety car conditions, that car has got a massive job on its hands to catch the crocodile of cars so that it doesn't become a straggler and therefore get in the way of quick cars when they're released. So
safety car procedure.
We are now at safety car procedure, says Alain Adam. So 2 safety car periods and a full course yellow into a safety car. Been a rather interrupted race, this. But Loris Spinelli and Max Weering heading for another win, which will be an 8th of the season. A remarkable year it has been. And it's not that there aren't good drivers against them either. It's not that they've been the only good combination all season. There are some very, very quick drivers, but less experience in Super Trofeo terms. So, lights are on the safety car. The pace quickens, look, of those further back as they try to play catch-up. Danger here is that as they do so, and we had it yesterday, people then slow and it causes fun and games behind. But if we are now at safety car pace, then we shouldn't be too far away, I wouldn't have thought, from getting the action back underway here. And the safety car will be in this time, so it's just 1 lap to get things up to temperature, and then to get the race back underway. Loris Spinelli, though, is pretty much, I would have thought, given the win now, because he has got the pace. He's going to start from the front. He can control the restart, and it's going to be very unlikely that anybody can go with him and interrupt the majestic progress that Loris Spinelli has. The pit lane speed of car 5 is under investigation. It's just been in, isn't it, for a pit stop. So Raf Mikrut's race going from bad to worse, and the race is going to be back underway this time. We'll have about 8 minutes, maybe 7.5 or so of racing time left. So inevitably these interruptions do eat into the racing itself. Number 64 is the target racing car of Antonius Vossos that is the leading AM entry right now from Cedric Lima. And then behind Cedric Lima is Stéphane Guérin, I think 3rd in the class. So the lights go out atop the safety car. It should then peel into the pit lane very shortly. And to get things underway, the cars then come to the end of lap number 19. It is going to be about 7.5 minutes on the clock when they get to the timing line. So the green flag shown, and Loris Spinelli accelerates away. There's a back marker between him and second place Milan Tikans. It is Kumar Prabhakaran who gets out of the way, and so Tikans now accelerates, as you see, on the inside line down towards turn 1. Loris Spinelli then leads onto the final segment of the race into turn 1 with side-by-side behind. Look, Amaury Bonduelle.
Penalty to car 5 and car 69 for speeding in the pit lane.
Amaury Bonduelle versus Daniel Kalvitz, and Bonduelle has gone through. So the gold car there, you can see there, Amaury Bonduelle up into third place, bravely going through on the inside line into turn 1, but coming back at him with Daniel Kalvitz as they come out of turn 3. Bonduelle dives across the road to defend Kalvitz to the outside line. And he keeps on coming, but it's the long line. No, it's not going to work, so he backs out of it, and Karol Bash gets up the inside oh so nearly as well, having just taken over the lead in the red and blue car there of Pro-Am. So Bonduelle is under pressure. To the outside line goes Kalvitz, has a look at Karol Bash then. The Polish driver tries to get up the inside. Kalvitz is run up wide on the curb, goes from one side of the road to the other. He's all over the back of Bonduelle here. Through they come once again. All of this is enabling, of course, Milan Tikans to get away in second place as they hold each other up for third. But it's, what, 3, almost 4 cars now in a line as they come through. The other one that's closing rapidly is Rodrigo Testa at the back of that group. And he has a look to the inside line. Karol Bash also looks to the inside of Kalvitz, tries to force a mistake out of the German driver. Up the hill they come. Amaury Bonduelle, who won at Spa, won on the road yesterday, is under very definite attack from Daniel Kalvitz, who wants that place back again, but I don't think it's going to happen for him because Bonduelle, we know, is quick, but Kalvitz has other ideas and he dives through at turn 13 and does make the job stick. So Daniel Kalvitz, having lost the place at the start of the lap, gains it back by the end, and that was good racing by Daniel Kalvitz. He teed that up coming up through turn 12, made the dive out of turn 13 and through he has gone, and Bonduelle had to give him racing room. So Daniel Kalvitz has gone through. There is the leader, Loris Spinelli. Milan Tikans in second place. In third spot, it is then Kalvitz, and there was that little bit of contact coming out of turn 12. Through on the inside went Daniel Kalvitz. Now, is that worthy of a penalty, or is that hard racing? Discuss. There's a drive-through penalty for Rafael Miklerud for speeding in the pit lane, and then number 66 is Karol Bash, who is now leading in Pro-Am. Martin Rieber dropping back in the traffic here with only 5 more minutes to go. And now, look, Karol Bash comes up on the inside of Amaury Bonduelle and goes through. Karol, remember, the pro in a Pro-Am entry and has been racing these cars for 7-8 seasons or so now. It's been quite a long time that Karol Bash has been a Lamborghini stalwart. The young Polish driver, 70. Oh, more drama off the road there goes whom? Through the gravel, it is 91 by the look of it, meaning that it is Pietro Perolini, who thankfully is back on the circuit again, but it's getting all a bit leery. Safety cars can breed safety cars, of course, as cars are all bunched up. Oscar Lee to the inside line there to get ahead of Martin Rieber. That's another battle in Pro-Am, and they touch, and Rieber spins, around he goes, and into the wall, bashes off it, tries to rejoin, and Martin Rieber, having gone wide over the curb, made contact with Oscar Lee, as you saw, spins the car, bounces off the barrier, and cries of woe in race control, because unless he can get out of the way, we're going to have another interruption, and Martin Rieber does get the car going, but you can see the damage done. It didn't look as though it was going to be that big an incident, but it done damage to the rear of Rieber's car. He will get going again, but of course badly delayed, and it may well be the team say, no, come and park it, we don't want any more mechanical damage being done. Number 63 there, Cedric Lima around the outside line, getting himself through the battle with Sebastian Freimut, who forces him out wide, then coming into the chicane. Lima off the road and back on again. That keeps the position for him. So, the end of all of that, Spinelli leads Tikans. Kalvitz is third. Karol Bash is fourth. Another one then, heading through the gravel. Back onto the road was 64. So, they're going through Antonios Vossos. Now, that, I think, has just cost him his AM lead. It has. Cedric Lima ahead of Andrei Lewandowski now in the AM category. So there's been a big shuffle and sort out through that as well. And what have we got left out of all of this? 3 more minutes. So in Pro, Spinelli leads there, 44. Going through, that is now Damien Josek, and the safety car is on the track again. Now, is this going to be needed? We've not gone to safety car conditions. It's been dispatched seemingly, but in case we needed it, but we don't need it yet. This was the incident between Rieber and Lee, so Oscar Lee on the inside line. And that was all down to Martin Rieber. He ran wide, unsettled over the curb, bounced off Oscar Lee, and then into the barriers. So self-induced, all of that, I'm afraid to say. This was the view on board. Wait for Oscar Lee to come diving up the inside. Over the curb goes Rieber, hits Oscar Lee, who thankfully didn't suffer the legacy of that, and around into the barrier goes Martin Rieber. And there is the leading car, which is going to squeeze 2 more laps out of the race. I reckon that safety car is going to be brought back in without having been used, actually, because the circuit is green once again. Through here comes the leader. I said it was green all the way around. That's another AM leader that has just thrown his class lead away. Cedric Lima has spun at turn 10. So Andre Lewandowski is now going to take over the lead of the class. Whoops, and another car is off the road and then found Cedric Lima in his way. Why he was off the road, answer comes there none. So Cedric Lima ahead of, I think that was Stefan Guerin, number 13, who was way off the road on the inside, possibly thinking there's a car off there, I'll duck up the inside of the road, but then Lima drove in to his general direction. And Lima misses out the chicane completely because he was on the outside line, so this is not his lap. It's all getting a bit confusing now as to what Cedric Lima is up to, but you can see how much speed you gain by not using the chicane, and therefore how much ground he's just pulled over the opposition. Right, back to the plot. Loris Spinelli leads Milan Tikens, leads Daniel Karlovitz. This is the race leader with another lap to run at the end of it. Karol Bash now with Bronek Formanek is leading in Pro-Am, on target for a second win of the weekend, seemingly. Andre Lewandowski leads Am ahead of the Yuri and Louis Wagner car, and then Gabriel Rindoni third. And the leading Lamborghini Cup entry now is Francois Grimm, having won yesterday. He wants another taste of victory, and he's clear at the moment as well. So that is the order right now in terms of the class positions. But Karol Bash there, you're looking at heading Pro-Am. Behind, there was a move coming from Emmanuel Zonzini to try to get through on the inside. And I think he has done so, coming down into turn 10. So Zonzini is on the outside line there of Gerhard Watzinger. Tries to make the move. Amaury Bonduel comes under attack as well here, look. So Bonduel turns towards turn 13. And there's contact there as through on the inside line goes Rodrigo Testa. That was through the traffic, in fairness. So the clock is about to hit 0. Cedric Lima has been given a 10-second penalty for gaining an advantage by effectively going off the track. In other words, by missing the chicane. So he's gained places and time. So Cedric Lima given a 10-second penalty. Don't think he's quite going to overcome that, so he will lose the place. But Loris Spinelli is on his last lap and has yet again underlined his class in this championship. So he's well clear of Milan Tikens to the tune of 6 seconds now. Andre Lewandowski heads the AM contest, as often he does. There he is, number 60 in the VSR, Vincenzo Sospiri Racing car. He is on target for a 5th AM win of the season here, as long as he stays out of trouble. And Yuri Wagner behind in that blue and black car is about to make a move, isn't he, for the class lead, because they got caught up in traffic. And so to the inside line goes Wagner, and he's going to do it on the inside there. Goes through, does he? Yes, he does. Squeeze up the inside. Gerhard Watzinger is ahead of them. This is for position as well. Watzinger forced out wide, and now, as he takes the racing line, splits the 2 cars fighting for AM honours. So Lewandowski has to brake really late coming down towards turn 5, which he does. Goes through, but is the damage done? As in, has he lost too much time to make up again now to Yuri Wagner? So Lewandowski did lead at the start of the lap, not anymore. This is Loris Spinelli, who's had a much calmer time of it. He is going to come through to score honours now. And heading towards the line, he hits the curb there coming out of turn 13, fights the car towards the chicane, but the checkered flag is imminent, and so a win beckons for Loris Spinelli, and for Max Weering, yet another win beckons for them effectively up towards the timing line. They're already the champions, and then an 8th win of the season goes their way as well. Loris Spinelli and Max Weering come through to win race 2 of the weekend in Barcelona in Lamborghini Super Trofeo Europe. 2nd to Milan Tikens and Marzio Moretti, and 3rd should be, yes it is, Daniel Karlovitz and Marionech. Karol Bash and Bronek Formanek take honours in Pro-Am. But then it's the AM contest that we are looking back to see, and we await. So it is going to be, I reckon, the Wagners. There they are, coming up towards the line there, number 97, and to take the AM category. Number 97, Yuri and Louis Wagner do indeed win from Andrei Lewandowski, who got mugged on the last lap, and Gabriel Rindoni finishing in 3rd place. And that for the Wagners in their Leipzig car, the first victory of the season for them. So a well-deserved result. But Loris Spinelli and Max Weering coming good, partly I suppose by the safety car periods, plural, which meant that not much time was being lost early on, because we had, of course, a number of laps being run under the safety car, and therefore at a slower pace. But a very good drive nonetheless by the Bonaldi team, and Loris Spinelli and Max Weering then win from Milan Tikens and Marzio Moretti, and then Daniel Karvitz and Lennart Marionetch, a second podium of the weekend for them. In the Pro-Am contest, Carol Basch and Bronek Formanek the winners from Emanuele Zonzini and Emanuele Colombini, and then 3rd in the class, Milan Petelet and Philippe Chatelet. Managed to get themselves up. 4th, actually, Martin Koderic, who had a great result. And there, Loris Spinelli celebrates a championship success and yet another race win with donuts. Doesn't need that set of Pirellis again, so he can play, and does so in front of the grandstand down at turn 10. Excellent stuff from Loris Spinelli, celebrating in style. Yuri and Louis Wagner win in AM from Andrei Lewandowski and then Gabriel Rindoni. And in the Lamborghini Cup, in the end, Francois Grimm, the winner, from Daniel Waszinski, and then Luciano and Donovan Privitello coming next. So Cedric Lima, who briefly led AM, ending up 26th overall because of his time penalty for cutting the chicane. So that was a race that certainly unravelled for him right at the very end. Max Weering and Loris Spinelli then take honours in our second Lamborghini Super Trofeo race of the weekend, ahead of Milan Tikens and Marzio Moretti. And then 3rd, Daniel Karvitz and Lennart Marionetch in 3rd place. 4th, Bronek Formanek and Carol Basch, the Pro-Am winners, ahead of Amaury Bonduel. And then 2nd in Pro-Am, Emanuele Colombini and Emanuele Zonzini. Rodrigo Testa, 7th, ahead of Milan Petelet and Philippe Chatelet. They were 3rd in Pro-Am. 10th, the AM winners, so not only was it a good win, but a good result overall. 10th place for Yuri and Louis Wagner from Andrei Lewandowski and Gabriele Rindoni. 14th overall, 3rd in the class. Keep going down the order, and in 27th, you find the winners of the Lamborghini Cup. Francois Grimm ahead of Daniel Waszinski, and then the father and son Privitellios, Luciano and Donovan, coming home for a podium as well. Oscar Lee's car, I think, must have picked up damage after that tangle, because it fell to last place in the end, with those behind not making it to the end. But the Bonaldi team, well, the success of the year just keeps on coming, doesn't it? With a very happy Max Weering. He's switched teams for this year, and is a very, very happy man, having won that championship yesterday, and race winners once again.
Max, congratulations. What an end to the weekend. That's absolutely superb. Not only the weekend, but the year.
Yeah, it's an amazing year. We already won almost everything. Only 2 times we had a P2, also because of a penalty. But yeah, we are happy. And yeah, this race was quite difficult. I was stuck in traffic in the beginning of the race. We did an early stop, and Loris was driving in his own, and I was able to put any space on it. And that's the reason why, when everybody did the pit stop, he was already on P1. So he did an amazing job, and the team did an amazing job. The car was perfect, and yeah, I'm really thankful to do this.
Well done, thank you, Max. Loris, obviously a little bit of a difficult stint there with the number of safety cars that were thrown out, but a fantastic result nonetheless.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, as always, to see a lot of safety car on the race is not funny, but everything was fine. We got this race, as always, I mean, just one goal, and it was to win. We did another step today. My time was consistently and really fast, so I'm really happy for that, and nothing. See you in Portimao.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
So great job done by Loris Spinelli and Max Weering. And they're the cars in Parc Ferme. Gemma Scott talking to the race winners, and Milan Tikans and Marzio Moretti's car having taken that second place, but in the end nearly 6 seconds behind, despite the fact that it started on pole position. But yes, if we look at the highlights of the race, proof of the fact that an early pit stop there, getting a quick driver in as soon as, pays dividends. So it was from the start Marzio Moretti who had the advantage going down towards turn 1. That was raged on behind, and then around the outside Andrei Lewandowski there picking up places against the Privitellios. Mott Rostan though got turned around early on, and so also did David Serban, and 1 or 2 cars picking up damage, meaning that there was a further drama at the top of the hill on the opening lap as Gregor Moczulski had a tyre go down and he spun. Mott Rostan rejoined but then went off again, having had a spin on the first lap, and the car bouncing into the barrier. Another safety car period was needed, and by that stage into the lead of the race had gone Loris Spinelli from Milan Tikans in second place. Battles on all the way through the field, all the way through the classes, and in Pro-Am, Martin Rieber on the outside of Oscar Lee. Contact made between the two of them. Rieber effectively out with damage, but it also really put pay to Oscar Lee's good drive, because that car suffered as a legacy as Rieber went around and bounced off the barrier. Loris Spinelli and Max Wearing, though, heading for a race win, and doing so in style as the car came through to take honours in our second Lamborghini Super Trofeo race of the weekend. They won the championship yesterday, and now an 8th win in 10 races. So the podium is being made ready. Drivers will be called forward in a moment. Fans getting themselves settled in for more action to come here from GT4 cars, from GT3 cars, and of course the chance that many of them would come to see their hero Valentino Rossi in action.
Yes, we are waiting. They are going to change it now.
And as soon as possible, the podiums will be underway. What does all this do to the championship? Well, there are, of course, class championships, but there's an overall one as well, and Max Wearing and Loris Spinelli way clear champions already from Marzio Moretti and Milan Tikans, and then Amaury Bonduel in third. Fourth is the troubled car of Stefan Tribodini and Jean-Luc Daria, and in turn they are ahead of another troubled car in that race, that of Lewis Williamson and Massimo Ciglia. So we'll have the drivers then call forward in a moment across the classes, and it is going to be, I would imagine, Pro that will come first. We'll check. The Barcelona circuit shaped podium, which will welcome the drivers. The photographers from Lamborghini are there, and so to the applause, out come then the drivers, and for third place, Daniel Kalvitz and Lennart Marionech. For second place, stepping forward, Milan Tikans and Marzio Moretti. And then the top step of the Pro category podium should go the way of Loris Spinelli and Max Wearing, the champions. So the national anthem played for Bonaldi Motorsport as the winning team here. So congratulations to the Bonaldi team, to Loris Spinelli and to Max Wearing, champions. Race winners once more. And Maurizio Reggiani, the Vice President of Motorsport for Automobili Lamborghini, steps forward to hand over the trophies. And another frantic race. Safety car affected, granted, but an excellent race for Loris Spinelli and for Max Weering, who yet again proved to be top dogs. So Loris Spinelli and Max Weering take the win. Fabrizio Pavesi from Pirelli Motorsport also on hand with trophies for them. The Pirelli trophy for the overall winners, and the top 3 overall, also of course from the pro class, then celebrate their success here at the Circuit de Catalunya. So the drivers then from the overall podium have one last go with the champagne, and the next time they are on track is the first weekend of November, and that is going to be at the World Finals in Portimao, where they've got the final rounds of the championship. In a sense, it's a shame that we go there with the pro class being already sewn up, but there are plenty of other battles, and it's, as ever, going to be really interesting to see how the European teams go against the drivers from America. So, as the drivers get set for the next podium, trophies are made ready, drivers are rounded up, and in a moment or two, then we'll get the drivers towards their podium. And out come then for third in Pro-Am, Milan Petelet and Philippe Châtelet. Then for second place, it is the VSR team of Emanuele Colombini and Emanuele Zonzini. And for the top step of the podium, it will be, as it was yesterday, Bronek Formanek and Karol Basch. So congratulations to Bronek Formanek and to Karol Basch. Different combination of drivers in that car for this weekend. Federica Tenegi, the European Series coordinator of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, steps forward to hand over the trophies. And first of all, to the third place crew of Milan Petelet and to Philippe Châtelet. First podium of the season for them. Then for Emanuele Colombini and Emanuele Zonzini, and then Bronek Formanek and his new teammate for the weekend, Karol Basch, on the top step of the podium. Next stop, Portimao for Lamborghini Super Trofeo, but from Barcelona for now, from David Addison. Thanks for your company. We'll see you next month for the World Finals, but for now, it's goodbye.